Like many of you, I'm still digesting the contents of last week's Brereton report into allegations of unlawful killings by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan, or as much as we know, given that so much of the public report has been redacted for obvious operational and legal reasons. However, news today that the Australian War Memorial might move to make changes to its existing Afghanistan displays based on this report alone disturbs me greatly. I don't resile from the fact that if crimes might have been committed, they should be further investigated, and if the evidence stacks up, there should be prosecutions. But under our law, only after a guilty verdict is anyone then guilty of a crime. And to get to that point, of course, the accused must first have their say in court. After all, we sent Australians to Afghanistan to uphold universal principles of fairness and decency. We can't fight for the rule of law abroad without adhering to it here at home. At the heart of our criminal justice system is the presumption of innocence. So far, after 4 years of investigations by a judge of the New South Wales Supreme Court and hundreds of witness interviews, what we have, or rather all we have thus far, is, quote, credible information that 39 Afghan prisoners may have been unlawfully killed, and a recommendation from Mr Brereton that 19 current or serving soldiers be further investigated. As Justice Brereton himself said, and I quote here, credible information, end quote. It's not necessarily admissible evidence, and it might not even lead to a prosecution or, again, in Brereton's words, let alone a conviction. At such an early stage, with the report released not even a week ago, there's now a rush in some quarters in the media and elsewhere, not just to accept that Australian soldiers committed war crimes, but moves that are tantamount to blackening the reputations of all our special forces, including, let's never forget, those who were killed in action. Now, I'm not saying that nothing happened. I'm not saying that, given that so many men who served with the Special Forces during this period want the rumours that have been there for 4.5, 5 years now to be properly investigated. But we do that in a sober, careful and legal way. At the very least, surely we should be slow to judge people whom we've sent to risk their lives on our behalf, and therefore isn't this a time to move with caution? I have to say too, I haven't worn the uniform, but I've worked for a Defence Minister and a Prime Minister. Why single out the men who faced the bullets while excusing the officers who ordered them into the field, and the politicians who sent them overseas in the first place? Because it's pretty rough justice that holds a few strictly accountable while leaving the many who put them into an impossible situation with their reputations unsullied, their titles all intact, and their medals untarnished. In any event, nearly 40,000 Australians served in Afghanistan, more than 3,000 in the Special Forces, and many of them did one or more tours of duty with night after night, dangerous night, of insertion into hostile territory, never knowing whether they would be alive next morning. Out of those numbers, we've scarcely got 0.5% of them where there are, quote, credible suspicions of unlawful killing. That's why it would be so wrong for the Australian War Memorial to rush to incorporate the Brereton report into its account of the Afghanistan campaign. Essentially, that would be presenting allegation as fact and possibility as certainty. Now, the War Memorial is, as its new director said today, a place of truth. And the truth is that not a single Australian soldier has gone overseas other than at the behest of our government and our people to protect Australian lives, values and interests. Now, if some of them have sometimes fallen short of our ideals, and that's proven in a court of law, then at that time deal with the truth of the Brereton report. But let's not act on allegations, because at this time, that's all that legally Brereton is. To do otherwise, in my view, and I suspect the view of many millions of Australians who visit that hallowed place each year, it would detract from the duty and the service which the War Memorial exists to honour. Or allow people who've never taken risks to virtue signal at the expense of those who have. Now, this afternoon I went onto the website to sign the petition to ask the Governor-General not to remove the group merit citation awarded to the Special Operations Task Groups who served our country in Afghanistan during the period 30 April 2007 and 31 December 2013. I went on there today. Now, here are the details for the petition. I hope you will consider supporting it along with me and many other hundreds of thousands of Australians. Right now, we are merely at the beginning of a process of justice, not at its end. Despite all the histrionics and media noise and commentary, all of that, put that to one side. The end of the process and not its beginning is the time to decide what we are to make of it all. If, and it's still a big if there is something to say about the bad as well as the good that our troops did in Afghanistan, let it be said then. And even then, if it comes to that, we as Australians should still take pride in being a country that owns our mistakes.